out what that third leg actually feels. Wait, did that go out live? Can we edit that in post? Is the third leg a post?
Cut that part out, Mike.
Oh, I just hurt myself a little bit. I think I'm going to have to miss this. Hashtag. All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Saturday night here. We have Greg Ehrenberg and man, Nathan Legend, Rich Green behind the scenes. He'll be coming in to talk about any updates that we have. Hopefully no last-minute scratches like Joel Embiid. Sadly, I set my lineups, thought, yes, this is going to finally be the time he squares off against Jokic. He's going to have to carry his whole team. I went and took a shower, and then 5 minutes ago, I learned he wasn't playing because I didn't pay attention. I decided to talk to my mom because I am a good son. Greg, what happens now that I've lost money? Can you help me win it back tonight with everybody else?
That is going to be, so the theme of tonight's show is win EMac's money back into EMac's account. Or if he doesn't win, the good news is EMac usually posts a bunch of like $1 and $2 head-to-heads over on DraftKings, so I'm not mistaken. And you guys could steal money from him. And why would you not want to go take money from somebody who just played Joel Embiid on a slate that Joel Embiid didn't play in?
I know, this is amazing. We're going to have team free money. That's going to be tomorrow. Tonight, I'm embarking on a tour with the Sims, Greg. So this is the first night. We're going to see how it works out. I've been utilizing that late swap feature on the Sims, which is chef's kiss, phenomenal. But I haven't really done from the jump here. I've got my methodologies, etc. But I've decided after watching you and Lindy win over the last couple of weeks, and Tom, and pretty much everybody, I want to get in on the fun here. So I will be going from the jump with those. And to celebrate that, Greg, we have decided to bundle together the Sims. So because I'm going to start using them for exclusively now, we decided to give everybody a deal here. Do you want to explain how that deal works? Because this was one of your imaginative ideas to give back to the community.
So one of the things I think is most funny about this is EMac, it's very difficult teaching old dog new tricks, but EMac sees Eric win a GPP and he's like, shit, anybody really could do this. I should get in on this. So that's what it took all year. It wasn't all the tournaments that I've won this season. It wasn't all the tournaments that Tom's won. It's as soon as Eric won, he goes, fuck, this shit must be really easy. I got to get in on that and go use it. If this just dunce bag could win a tournament, I can too. So so EMac is getting in on the Sims. He's walking into the year 2024 with a little bit more technology in his pocket. And if you guys want to be like EMac and use all the Sims tools we have at stochastic.com, here's a good news for you. We've got them all bundled together now. So we've got PGA, MMA, MLB, NBA, NFL. You get them all bundled together, and you get yourself $150 off if you guys use the Stochastic avatar. And that's just not a one-time thing. That is in perpetuity, for forever. Every single month you pay, you're going to get $150 off, and all you have to do for that is use the Stochastic avatar. If you guys want to sign up for our Sims bundle, use the link below in the description box.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely just a terrific way to go. It makes things easy for you. And everybody says, what's in it for me? The Witham story. Give me something. Here you go. Rep the avatar, and you're going to get $150 a month. That's a pretty good deal. We're paying you to be with us. Pretty sweet. A few injuries, Greg. A couple things have changed since we broke down the slate this morning. Nothing particularly earth-shattering, but let's take a quick spin through our injury list, and then we will meander and see what's up here. So Utah, no issues there, with the exception of on the Charlotte side of that game. LaMelo Ball is out with a sore ankle. So he will be joining Hayward, who's missing game number 15, Mark Williams, who's not going to be back till after the All-Star break, and then remember Kyle Lowry at this point is likely to not play. They're looking to move him for a potential pick swap or something, but even in an emergency, in case of emergency break glass situation like this, doesn't sound like he's going to leave the bench. Boston officially ruled out Porzingis. The Clippers officially ruled in Paul George. On the New Orleans side, against the Bucks here, we've got Zion now questionable with the sore ankle. You have Trey Murphy III probable. This is a back-to-back. The Pelicans play again on Monday. Last night we saw CJ McCollum go 35 minutes, Ingram 34, Murphy 28, Joe Val 20, and Nance 22 off the bench. Zion did not play last night. We'll have to see if he's going to play tonight. On the Milwaukee side, Middleton out for rest in this back-to-back. However, Jay Crowder available to play. So that's slightly different, but he is playing about 12 to 15 minutes per game. Middleton's still going to move the needle on guys like Connaughton and potentially Beasley. Just Bobby Portis kind of allowing another 32 minutes or so and 15 field goal attempts out there. On the Lakers side, we don't have any real updates on James and Davis. They're both listed as questionable. And of course, we're waiting to see if Draymond Green is going to rejoin the starting lineup on that one. And then the last major update, Dallas organized things a little bit. Powell's going to be missing, I think this is his 4th game with an eye abrasion. You have Kyrie Irving is now doubtful with the thumb injury. That would be the 3rd game he's going to miss. And then Doncic popped up here on the injury report with an ankle issue. They did play last night. This is a back-to-back, a 3 and 4, and they play again on Monday. This is the last game of the night. So Greg's going to talk us sort of how we handle this. It's 30 minutes after the other game. So everything's kind of going in waves. We have 2 7 o'clock games. We have 3 in that 8 to 8:30 window. And then this is the 9 o'clock game. So we might have some more Dallas news as we get into the slate, but I doubt we'll have it before 7 o'clock. Greg, I watched a nice 7.5-minute video after we did our show today that you did breaking down how you won $30,000 and how you set your lineup up. See, I'm taking this whole thing serious here. We have all sorts of tutorials and things like that to help even younger guys than me figure out how to utilize the Sims, ladies as well. But talk us through how you're going to handle some of these injury spots, because this is laying the foundation for your entire player pool and portfolio.
Sure. So I think the first thing that's most important for us to talk about is what we want to get into our lineups from the first couple games on the slate, because we got 2 games that lock at 7 p.m. Eastern time, Charlotte, Utah, as well as Boston and the Clippers, because any news that happens after that, we can react to as it comes. But if the slate starts and we've already got players locked, and there isn't a whole lot we can do about that because they're already going to be locked. So I do think it's important to really look at the slate and figure out what it is that we cannot do without from the first game on the slate. And there are players in particular from the Charlotte side of that first game that I think that we absolutely need to have pretty heavy exposure to. So guys like Ish Smith, I'm not willing to do without. Guys like Miles Bridges, Cody Martin, those are players I have a little bit of exposure to as well. But the highest priority of any players that are locking early for me is Ish Smith. I am assuming that he starts, by the way, and we could ask Rich as well what he's expecting from the Charlotte Hornets starting lineup. But my personal opinion is that we are going to see Ish Smith starting tonight. And I actually wouldn't mind. Rich, is that how you're projecting it as well? Ish Smith is starting point guard for the Hornets tonight?
Yep. I got Ish Smith starting as well as Cody Martin, and then the rest is pretty much the same.
Cool. Yeah. So, and Ish Smith, a way higher priority for me than Cody Martin. So Cody Martin is making his way into some of my lineups, but not necessarily the priority. Like Ish Smith is in about half my lineups right now. Cody Martin closer to 20%. So that's the main thing for me as I'm building out my lineups, is trying to make sure that I have players that I really like from the first game. I don't really want to get a lot of fringe options in EMac. So if you have like a lineup or two with the Jaylen Brown type guy, that's okay. But if you're building lineups and you're seeing like, oh, I'm getting to 20, 30% of Jaylen Brown, I would highly recommend you go into our Sims tool and do an ROI downgrade boost to him, just to make sure you have a little bit more flexibility in your lineups, because there are so many players that are questionable for later. Luka, a massive one. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Zion Williamson, Mike Conley, Zach Collins, Derrick Jones. There's so many players that can massively impact the slate. So I really do want to have the flexibility to maneuver my lineups. Ish Smith, I'm not willing to do without, though.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. We got a couple super chats here. Well, we do have a 5 membership gifting spree here from Chris Williams. He's putting those YouTube memberships out there. That gives you 1, the little badge, and 2, the ability to have some fun with extra emojis. True Rages, $4.99 super chat. So he says, hey guys, DK cash locks. Do you play Luka and Giannis together? And who do you consider from Utah? Now, this is kind of an interesting one. I haven't rerun it, but I am playing one cash game lineup tonight here. I did check on DraftKings, and if you, this was earlier, but if you ran your lineups optimal and then with Giannis and Luka, they only were separated by about 2 points. At that time on DraftKings or on FanDuel, that same pairing knocked you 13 points off of the optimal. Now that's going to change a little bit because there are additional value options today, and we didn't have Ish Smith previously. But the key thing is to know your site and your the scoring system, salary cap impacts, etc. So DraftKings, that would be my priority. Would be to go that route tonight just for the raw points. If you're nervous about Luka, you could work in you could work in or bail out with Sabonis or Fox if you appropriately adjust your lineup. So I would probably go that route. Greg, what is your approach
so somebody in chat informed me, by the way, I accidentally said Ish Miller instead of Ish Smith at some point. I don't know if I did or didn't. I can't hear myself while I'm talking sometimes, but if I did, I meant Ish Smith. Ish Miller isn't even a real person. Maybe there's an Ish Miller out there somewhere. So if I said Ish Miller, I guess I sound like a total idiot right now. But Ish Smith is who I meant is going to be starting at point guard for the Charlotte Hornets tonight. In all likelihood, we'll get the starting lineup as we go. As for cash games, so that question came to us from True Rages. Cash game locks, we play Luka and Giannis together. So the answer I'm going to give, let's see, what is my highest projected lineup? Would I play Giannis and Luka together, and how easy is it to fit them in? It's viable to do it. Luka's the much higher priority option, though. If you can only pay up for one of them, go to Luka instead of Giannis. I don't have an issue with getting both of them in. I don't think you have to. The players you absolutely do have to play in cash games, though, or Luka. Even though Luka's questionable, you want to have him in because we saw what he did last night with Kyrie Irving out. If Kyrie Irving, we already know Kyrie Irving is going to play today. If Luka is in with Kyrie out, you just need to play him in cash games. And it's going to be very hard to get Luka into lineups if you don't have him in right now. But if you do have him in, it's not going to be all that hard to swap off of him. So I recommend you have Luka in your cash game lineup and play him in tournaments right now as if he's in. And then if he gets ruled out, we'll make adjustments to our lineups afterwards. So play Ish Smith in cash games, play Luka in cash games, play Wemby in cash games as well. I actually do prefer spending up to Wemby in cash games than I do to Giannis, just because the way that Wemby is priced right now, it's incorrect. He should be much more expensive than what he is. So we've got Wembanyama at $8,600 on DraftKings. I look at him as one of the best overall plays on this slate. Maybe there's a little bit of concern since it's a back-to-back and they've generally been sitting him in these situations. But Wemby is one of the best points per fantasy producers we have in the league. So I'd consider him somebody really wanting cash games. And the rest of it, I'd say backload your lineup and wait for more news to come out as far as cash is concerned.
All right. We're going to get to Olrats in a second. Phil Senzik has the EMac, who is the get off my lawn play of the day. So I guess that means we're looking for potentially an older player, perhaps somebody that's crotchety, likes to yell. Well, I bring you Draymond Green. I mean, I can't think of anybody else that fits the bill better. Draymond's been coming off the bench his last 3 games. He's going to be 34 this spring. He's played only 18 games this season while serving 2 different suspensions. He's still a fantasy point per minute player. On Thursday, he played 31 1/3 minutes. He scored 33 fantasy points despite missing all 3 of his field goal attempts. He did go, I think it was 5 for 8 or 4 for 7 from the line. But it's just a reminder that he can get things done. Greg astutely pointed out on the show this morning that he is just not correctly priced, even if he remains coming off the bench. So I think he would be the get off the lawn play. If we get news on the starting lineup soon, his popularity is going to get up there around 50%. But until then, he is my guy who I will stand out there and shout at the rain with.
So are you saying
I'm
you
trying
like
to make Rich laugh and see
because a little unclear to me, Mac. Are you saying you like or you dislike Draymond Green for today?
I like Draymond.
Okay.
He's angry. He's crotchety. He's old. This is perfect. It's my guy. I never thought I'd say this, yet here we are together, shoulder to shoulder.
All of the narratives about old people and their attitudes is the opposite of you, EMac. You're not the get off my lawn type old guy. You're the kind of guy who somebody shows up at your house on Halloween and you want the kids to steal all the candy. You want them to take it all because you're such a kind, elderly gentleman. Not in a creepy way. I don't mean this either. I just mean you're very nice. I've never seen you without a smile. You're
All
not
right.
crotchety.
Well, you know, the faster they take the candy, the faster I can turn out the light. So I'm pretty generous with the candy for the first 30 or 40 kids that show up. But in any event, we have that's always a fun one. Old Rat would like to know, shooting guard looks a little tricky tonight on DK. Who do you like at the different pricing points? I think he's looking, would you earmark some cash towards that position? Would you go point per dollar, or would you look to just punt that one off?
All right. So shooting guard. And all right, so it looks like the way he's framing the question, shooting guard looks horrible on DK. Who at each tier to play? All right, so I guess we're looking at price tiers, and let me look by salary. There's no pay up option I really like at shooting guard. If you have to pay up for somebody, it's going to be Anthony Edwards. Edwards is in about 10% of my lineups right now, so I don't have an issue with him. But it's not like I have any kind of real stand at an expensive guy at shooting guard, other than just I don't really like any of them. If you're going to be in the, well, unless if we're going to consider Brandon Ingram a pay up option at shooting guard, he's somebody who makes sense to reserve lineup spots for, because Zion's questionable again tonight. If Zion sits, then Brandon Ingram becomes a really strong option. So if we're going to consider 76 a pay up, then I'll say him, or I could use him as my mid range play. Whatever. He's my favorite of the players who are priced above 7K at shooting guard on DK. He's the one that's the most sensible to me. If we're looking in the mid range, I'm going to go to Jrue Holiday. The reason I like Jrue Holiday for tonight is we have Kristaps Porzingis out, and Jrue Holiday is somebody who, because shooting guard is weak, I don't mind getting him into lineups and him being one of the guys in the 7 p.m. slate of games that we're going to include in our main slate lineups, because Jrue Holiday, the last time we saw Porzingis sit, he played 38 minutes. And because what happens is a trickle-down effect is the Celtics are kind of thin in the front court. They don't have a ton of big men that they like to play big minutes. The last game Porzingis was out, the Celtics ran an 8-man rotation. And as a result, we saw them play more small ball lineups. Jrue Holiday really benefited. So a Holiday at 6K, that's going to be my mid-range guy. And then if we're looking to punt at shooting guard, I'm going to go with Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter's fairly popular today. The reasons that I like Kevin Huerter have more to do with the overall makeup of the slate and game theory than actually Kevin Huerter himself, which is they're playing against the Dallas Mavericks. A bunch of guys are questionable for Dallas, in addition to Kyrie Irving being ruled out already. This is a very sensible guy to do a positive ROI boost to, or make sure he makes his way into more of your lineups. If he's in lineups, I don't have an issue with it, but I really like the flexibility he gives us if players are ruled out from Dallas on the other side of the game. It'll be really easy to turn Kevin Huerter into some value plays from Dallas if Luka sits.
All right, good call out there. Another good call out. This is for all of you watching. It is to mention Sleeper, the presenting sponsor of our show here. They are offering a $500 deposit match. You can get that by going through the link in the YouTube description below us here. Key things they have on their site: they have up to 100x payouts, which is the highest on the market. They offer more statistical categories, things such as triple doubles, double doubles. When you get into baseballs, they got the old home runs, the triples, stolen bases, etc. Those aren't available on other sites. And then they have dynamic payouts, meaning a lot of their options, you can choose to go higher or lower than their posted rate, and it will impact the payouts. So that is something that you can check out there. It's a lot of fun, but the most fun is that $500 deposit match. You must put in a minimum of $20, and I'm sure they will be launching a free square here for us to get in on the fun there for the Super Bowl. I will drop this into chat here for you guys so you can see the landing page, but you want to check this out. It's a good deal. And remember, the legal age for gambling in most states is 21 or older. And if anyone you know has a gambling issue, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Interim coach.
As an add to that, basically what that means is if you're EMac's age, you're going to be calling. If you're anybody younger than EMac, you would be texting the number.
Why would I text? My flip phone, I have to push those buttons so many times, Greg.
Yeah, it is something that I don't know. You're getting in on the Sims now, so maybe times are changing.
We'll see. I still have to launch the page yet. I'm ready now. I've got my Showdown lineups good for the next game. I've got all my hockey lineups in. I've got my college basketball third slate of the day lineups in. The Matt Gajewski projections. You guys got to have some fun on that. Definitely check those out. That's all behind the paywall. And again, bundle everything up. Get everything here at Stochastic with the Sims bundle. I'm assuming that includes everything, not just the Sims, Greg. So like NASCAR, which is coming up, golf. I guess we have Sims for golf, the college sports, etc. So good time had by all.
Gets you access to everything on the site.
Alrighty, so assuming that your buddy Glenn Rivers doesn't chicken out in Denver and decide not to coach the Bucks, we have one more night of the interim coach there. That is Joe Prudy. He, of course, was coaching them last night. He was been an interim coach a couple different times for them for various reasons, but he's okay as far as that goes. So that shouldn't really change our thoughts on Giannis. But he has said that Giannis will be playing tonight. So confirming that information, which is good because that game does start at 8 o'clock. We'll be able to react to that, of course. But I'm looking, nothing's really popped up yet for the 7 o'clock games. We probably are going to get that information about 8 to 10 minutes here, and then that'll be another posting of the NBA injury report as well for the other teams. So let's see what else we have here, Greg. Oh, somebody asking about the pick six. So Pat Fitz, I want to mention this. So that is something I'm not able to play in Florida. I haven't been able to check that out, so I'm not familiar with it. But essentially, this is something that DraftKings is offering. I believe I saw another site that was offering something similar as well. It looks like it's a kind of a contest where you're playing peer to peer. It's sort of a GPP format. There's going to be game theory involved, in that everybody has a certain yes or no questions they're being asked that they pick from a series of contests. But I think it's a next level thing that you're going to want to be understanding the game theory more, because if everybody is picking the picks that are about a 60% probability or a 56% probability, which is usually where they're trying to go with these, if you go the other direction, you will get definite leverage off of the rest of the field. And that seems to be how the payouts work a little bit better in your favor. Producer Mike is sharing the screen now. So for those of you that aren't aware of what we're talking about, it seems that most of the states that don't have sports wagering have a chance of having this game. I haven't looked into it too much since I'm not able to see it here.
Was there
a
super chat about it?
No, they wanted, we get that question. I've seen that question a few times. So gotcha. I just wanted to quickly cover it. It's hard to talk about because half of us can't see it. So
yeah,
and it's something new and there's some wrinkles behind it. So unless I dive in and read the rules, it's more than just the pick. It's not as straightforward as you versus the pick'em sites. So
yeah, it's something that we've gotten super chats about it before. And unfortunately, there's not really anything I could do to help people because living in New Jersey, I don't have access to it. And it's not even just you don't have access to where I can't play it. It doesn't even let me see what the lines are or anything. So it's not really anything I could help people with as far as that goes. But what we can help people with is some of the super chats, like Avi Schreier asking us who are our top 3 center plays on FanDuel. But only between 6,500 and 6,000. There can't be that many guys with center eligibility that are priced within this tight range. But let me look. All right. So top 3 center plays on FanDuel between 65 and all right. So we are looking at Zach Collins, Derek Lively, Walker Kessler, Al Horford, Ivica Zubats, PJ Washington, John Collins, Nick Richards. Those are all your guys from 6K to 6,500. So I have to go my top 3 favorite. All right, let me look at my exposures to these guys. So of these players, the one I have the most exposure to is PJ Washington. We can anticipate extra usage for him with a mellow ball out. After PJ Washington, I'm going to go with Draymond Green. Draymond Green, I do think we see Draymond Green start at center tonight. I'm not 100% confident in that, but I'm taking shots on Draymond Green in tournaments because I do think that he's fairly live to move back into the starting lineup today. As far as a third favorite in that price range, I don't like anybody quite as much beyond that, but I'll go with Al Horford next, who does stand to pick up some extra minutes with Porzingis not expected to play today. One thing I'll ask Rich about this too. Rich, are you expecting Draymond to start, or are you kind of on the fence?
I'm a little on the fence, but I am hedging towards him starting for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am at too. Earlier in the day when EMac and I were doing the strategy show and ran the Sims, and then we were like pretty aggressive, just being like, all right, projection, Draymond starting. We're getting to him in like almost everything. Even now with his minutes dialed back a little bit, Draymond is still one of my most rostered players on the slate. He's in about a third of my lineups right now, but it's certainly a number where here's what's going to happen with my Draymond exposure. If he starts, I'm going to go from him being in a third of my lineups to north of half of them. If he comes off the bench, I'm probably going to hardly have any Draymond Green. So we'll see what ends up happening. I'm cool with him being in a third of my lineups right now. It's kind of a placeholder type spot, and I'm totally comfortable going up or down in exposure with him, depending what ends up happening later there. What else do we have for super chats, Matt? Or
Can I
unless
have
Rich,
one thing real quick?
Yeah.
Last game when they played Sacramento, he played 32 minutes off the bench, and tonight they're playing a competitive game against the Lakers. So I would say even if he doesn't start, it's still his minutes should still kind of be there where he's still a decent player at the very least. It's not something I would say like if you don't see him starting to just automatically take him out of everything. He's still a pretty decent play by not starting. But yeah, if he starts, I mean his minutes just kind of get set in concrete. So.
All right, good point, Rich. So maybe I shouldn't decrease his minutes too much with that in mind if he does end up coming off the bench. But my best guess is that he does end up starting. EMac, what do you have for us in terms of other super chats? And there's also questions in Discord. I'll go grab those up after we hit on the
well,
super
of
chats.
course, yeah. For the first one is Ace of Spades asking the old tiers question. I do have those loaded up as well. You guys, if you want to look at them.
All right, so let's look at tiers then, EMac. And there is a very interesting discussion to be had about Luka because he's very clearly the number one overall option in tier 1, but he might not play. Here's the good news, though. Considering that we have the Mavericks playing against the Kings, if Luka's out, you just swap the Sabonis instead, but you play Luka right now. EMac, I know that you've already been burned by a player not playing once so far today. Are you willing to go to Luka in tier 1 here?
Yeah, absolutely, because of the escape hatch that you mentioned there, and Sabonis. Now, remember, if Luka does get out, then Sabonis is going to be incredibly popular. So that sort of has Anthony Davis as a contrarian option in there, but he is still coming in 15 points on median projections below Luka. So that's an awful lot to be giving up on, I guess.
And I'll go through the rest of the tiers now. Tier 2 for me, that is going to be for now LeBron James. Another one, though, that's pretty tricky because LeBron is questionable. So if you guys want to be really risk adverse and you don't want to take any chances, then play Jason Tatum in tier 2 instead of LeBron. But there is a scenario here where LeBron plays and AD sits and LeBron would look really, really good. But I have no issue if you guys want to be safe and go Jason Tatum in tier 2. Tier 3, got to go with my guy Wemby. I'm very high on Wembanyama tonight. Tier 4, there's going to be Miles Bridges with LaMelo Ball out. Tier 5, I'm going with Brandon Ingram. In part, he already projects well, but the chance that Zion sits again will make Brandon Ingram an even clearer choice in tier 5. So Ingram there. And then tier 6, I'm going with Derek White, who also stands to pick up some extra minutes with Porzingis out and the Celtics playing some smaller lineups. EMac, are you playing tiers today or did you just build out lineups in anticipation of Ace of Spades Super Chat?
I built out lineups in anticipation of
There we go. It's a good man. That's what happens. You do a few more of these shows with me. And you start to realize the super chats. You can anticipate the questions we're going to get.
It is a good one. And we've got one more before you turn your attention to Discord. Oh, two more, I guess. Top value plays on DK. And that sort of feathers in favorite player at every position. That is from Chops and Zach to the future. And they are using their membership chat. So remember, like when Chris was gifting those out, you should get a membership chat, I believe, if you have a YouTube subscription. So you just get one per month, but use it wisely. So DK, favorite value options at this point.
Okay. So, well, two different questions. So I'll do the overall top value plays on the slate, and then I'll do the players that I get the most exposure to. For top value options, Ish Smith, clearly one. He's somebody who you're going to want to have a good amount of exposure to on the slate. I'm going to throw Draymond Green in there as well at 5,500. I do think he starts if that is the case. I know that people are sour on Draymond Green at this point in his career, and he's clearly on the decline, but he should be more expensive than $5,500. He should be like $1,000 or so more expensive than what he is. So Draymond Green is somebody that I also like a good amount as a value play. Grant Williams, who already looks okay, but keep in mind too, Derrick Jones Jr., he got hurt last night, killed a lot of my lineups. I don't think he's going to play. That looks like a really bad injury that Derrick Jones Jr. had last night. He took a really nasty fall. So I do think that we're going to see Derrick Jones Jr. out. So Grant Williams, a good play as is, but also not a bad guy to have in there just to give yourself extra flexibility with him playing later on in the night. So Grant Williams, Draymond Green, Ish Smith, those are my three favorite value plays on the slate. As far as my favorite player at each position. All right, so point guard for me, that is going to be Luka. Shooting guard for me, Kevin Huerter. Small forward, that is currently LeBron James. Power forward, That is going to be Wemby. And then center right now is Naz Reid for me, or Draymond. So right now I'm going to say Naz Reid, but it would be Draymond if he is confirmed as the starter. So those are my favorite options at each position there. Chops, thank you for the super chat.
Strong ones. What is your overall percentage for Wembanyama? I kind of forgot about him.
He is in, of my 150 lineups, he is in 61 of them right now. So a little bit over 40%.
So that makes a lot of sense. All righty. I think that hits us for super chats. What do you got popping up there in the old Discord?
Yep. So let's go into Discord, starting with our guy Captain Akella, who's asked us the question of who is one guy that we like in single entry? EMac. Who's a single entry option that you're liking quite a bit for tonight?
So the two players I'm looking at right now are Mason Plumlee and Nick Richards. Ultimately, I think I'm landing on Nick Richards, but that is just, I guess I want to say hunch, I guess, that I'm leaning that way. We do have some shorthanded players there. He should get some good minutes. He's going to be going against the likes of Walker Kessler and whomever else is out there for their exactly 22 and a half minutes that the Utah Jazz play, unless you're Clarkson or Markkanen. So I kind of like Richards tonight, even though this is a back-to-back in the 3 and 4.
Let's see for myself. I'm going to go with Kevin Huerter, mostly because I really, really do like the flexibility that he gives you in the event that we start to see players ruled out for Dallas. You want to make sure you have a way to either swap to Luka or ability to swap off them if he ends up getting ruled out. So Kevin Huerter, somebody who I like quite a bit for single entry for those reasons. And then Mr. Cool Cam is asking us, by the way, we got the starting line for the Celtics as well, which is Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, Horford. Nothing unexpected. That's what we thought was going to be coming. And the last time we saw the starting lineup for the Celtics, they did only run an 8-man rotation. So something to keep in mind for you guys. And then Mr. Cool Cam asked us, who are our favorite players at each position on FanDuel? Did you build out FanDuel lineups, EMac, or just?
I did not.
Okay.
I can answer Yahoo, but I don't do FanDuel. Perhaps I should.
So I will go through FanDuel, which is a little bit different for me than what DK has as far as my most exposed players. Point guard is Ish Smith. Shooting guard for me on FanDuel is Nick Smith. Small forward, Miles Bridges. Power forward, Brandon Ingram. And then center is Mason Plumlee for me over on FanDuel. That's what I'm getting the most of at each spot. And the next question is
Nick Smith is kind of, that caught me off guard, Greg. Is that someone you'd look at on any other sites?
So the difference is Nick Smith is $3,900 on FanDuel, and there's just less value to see on FanDuel right now than there is on DraftKings. So he ends up projecting better over there relative to the slate anyway. The next question that we have here, it is one from Nick Rue, who wants to know, why did Colin Sexton only play 17 minutes last game? That's just how the Jazz run their rotation. So the Jazz have been very good. They've cooled off a little bit in recent games, but there was a stretch where for like a month, the Jazz were one of the, if not the hottest team in the NBA. And the way they've been doing it is they run a very deep rotation. They're letting like 10 guys play each night. Nobody other than Markkanen can we really be guaranteed is going to play significant minutes. So I could tell you very confidently, unless he gets into foul trouble and injury or something, Markkanen's going to play 30 plus minutes. The minutes of every other player on Utah are very, very volatile. You can't confidently say anybody else on this team is going to play big minutes. So last game, we saw a lot of people, and myself included, I was playing Colin Sexton a good amount. I was underweight to the field on him for that slate, but there was a lot of reasons to think that there was upside with Colin Sexton because he had been playing well lately. His minutes had been secure up to that point. I can't confidently tell you he's going to play 34 minutes or anything like that. It's just how the Jazz are playing right now. They play a really deep rotation. Whoever's playing well on a given night, that's who closes. So it's a nightmare as far as projecting minutes goes. He could go back to playing 30 plus minutes. He could play 20 today. It's just the way that they go. It's hard. It's a hard situation to project. But let's bring Rich in here again, because Rich is the one who's manning the projections and setting the minutes. Rich, how much of a pain in the ass are the Utah Jazz to figure out minutes for?
They are a giant pain in the ass. I don't know if you guys remember Oklahoma City from the last few years, but the Utah might be a bigger pain in the ass than they were. To touch on the Sexton thing, it is a little alarming to say the least, but I mentioned this in Discord that if you like dive too deep into a blowout rotation from a team, you might just kind of get lost and end up making bad decisions that way. I think Utah was up by like 20 halfway through the third, and I don't think Sexton played like 18 of the final minutes. So that's something to take into account. I don't think they're just going to bench him just from one game. That's not what I'm seeing. But if you are kind of hesitant, he's also priced up now where, if he's not playing well, then his price tag is you're probably going to get killed by that. So I totally agree with everything else you said. Marketing's by far the safest play on there minutes wise. Still like Simone, Fontecchio, and guys like that can shoot. But yeah, don't read too much into the blowout. But with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if Utah all of a sudden just flipped everything, and then you get like Keontae George playing the Sexton minutes and Sexton playing the George minutes, and Walker Kessler starting just weird stuff like that.
So to
Yeah,
follow up on that, they don't have a one for one rotation where people back exactly the same person up. We've seen Detroit do that in past years when they're in full tank mode. It seemed to be a little more chaotic than that, but is there any pattern you can discern other than it's the whims of the coach?
Yeah, I mean the way I kind of read it was that they're up a bunch, and why not give, the Keontae George and Agbaji, guys who haven't really been playing too many minutes lately, just give them an extended amount of run and see what they got. So what OKC did a few years ago, or for the last few seasons, they were trying to collect a bunch of data on all these different lineups, right? And they're like taking it very analytical. These guys play well together against these types of lineups, and these guys don't, yada yada. So that could just be a possible reason too, is that they were up by so many. If it ever got close again, they could always put their, starters back in if they needed to. But let's collect some more data on how this group performs.
That makes sense. And then one last question for you. What the hell's gotten into Harrison Barnes, and can it continue for one more
Hey, ride the wave while you can, right? I have no idea what's gotten into him, EMac. I kind of like to see it though. I like the Kings. They're kind of a fun team. They're kind of like how Golden State was in their prime. They run and gun a lot, high energy. Got a bunch of players that can shoot. Unfortunately, Herter and Barnes started off the season so slow, but it seems like both of them are starting to get it together. So, 4,600, yeah, I think that's still a fair price for him if he is playing well.
night? Alrighty. Another super chat here for you, Greg. Who are the must plays? And then you can feather that in with some of the Discord questions.
Sure. So the guys right now that I'd consider, considering all the information we have right now, there's only two players I think you should absolutely have in lineups. That is Ish Smith and Luka Doncic. Those are the two guys that are highest priorities for me on the low end and on the high end. Those are the must plays.
Thank you.
Go back into Discord, and we've got Jets World asking us, are we okay with playing Ish Smith and Nick Smith in the same lineup on DK? So I'm definitely okay with it on FanDuel. On DraftKings, if you have a lineup with two of them in, yeah, it's not really an issue. It's not my favorite way to build lineups, just to load up on Ish Smith and Nick Smith. But yeah, it's okay if you have them in the same line. They're both very cheap. It's a good matchup against Utah, so it's not really an issue. The next question we have is from Breakfast's Hoppy Op. I think I read that right. Breakfast, or is it Breakfast Shoppy Op? I don't know. Nobody will ever know. This takes somebody smarter than me to figure out. But for his question, it is, do we want to play Josh Green on DraftKings? The answer to that is yes, for sure.
Right. Question from EMac in Florida. When running the simulations here, I know how to do, they know how to do it when they're doing the late swap. The question is, do they still need to download their output file into the DFS template of their choice here and upload that methodology? There's no way to just download the file and upload it, right?
If you're just reserving your lineups, you just export it and then you could upload those lineups. But if you already have the lineups reserved, then you have to download your template from DraftKings and then you just override the lineups over that. You just copy paste them over. All right.
So
I hope
the usual way. I know Josh Engelman did a nice video on that. I just didn't get a chance to watch that one today. I will be watching it tomorrow, though, so I'm better informed with this.
So let me tell you why I appreciated that answer of yours. The reason that I liked that answer is because that means that you're prioritizing watching my content over Josh's.
Of course. No questions asked. Josh is like, he's a soccer fan, pardon me, a football fan. He doesn't even watch the games, and he's a Chinese spy. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, Josh Engelman.
By the way, because people are bringing up in the chat, Ish Smith is starting. We've got the starting
Okay.
lineup out for Charlotte. Ish Smith, nothing unexpected. We'd said from the get-go here that we expected Ish Smith to start at point guard and play LaMelo Ball.
And someone was asking about Sims. We have them for DraftKings and FanDuel, not for Yahoo.
And Owner's Box.
Oh, an Owner's Box. Sorry, how could I forget Owner's Box?
Cream asked us, do we like Herter over Reeves? Yes, I do. I prefer Herter over Reeves. So where this changes, if LeBron and or Anthony Davis are ruled out, then Austin Reeves would be a higher priority. As things stand now, though, Kevin Herter, better points per dollar play than Austin Reeves. And also with him starting a little bit later, it adds some flexibility. So yes, I prefer Kevin Herter over Austin Reeves. And then M. Grizzly said, who are we getting to in the early games, considering potential value opening up later? And by the way, Zach Collins was just ruled out. So that is something that is going to impact some of our lineups here. But he was asking us, who are we getting to in the early games, considering potential value opening up later? So the players I have the most of from the early games are Ish Smith, Miles Bridges, and Drew Holiday. There's nobody else I have in over 20% of lineups that's in the first locky game of the slate.
All right. Actually, this is a good question here. Mason Plumlee or Naz Reid?
Naz Reid.
Do you have thoughts? So you would still go Reid. So I kind of like Plumlee getting the start. He played, I think, 25 minutes last night. The big thing on him was conditioning. He is someone I was really looking at on Yahoo, but he was $10. And not all $10 players are created equal on Yahoo by any stretch, but he's someone that does have 30 fantasy point upside. He could be a $17 to $18 player there. He could be a $6,500 center on DraftKings if he was getting regular minutes. So I was just kind of curious where you were on that.
Yeah, I have a good amount more of Naz Reid than Plumlee. The main reason, though, is because Naz Reid is power forward eligibility and Plumlee only is center eligibility.
All righty. So when quick question because I know there are new people aside from me because they are using the new stochastic bundle to get them all of the Sims, and they are putting their avatar into the stochastic avatar into their avatar on their DFS side of choice, so they can get that $150 credit every month. Greg, when you're starting to build out your player portfolio, if you're someone that is playing 500 person content or 500 entry contests like I do you typically start out with like the 250 pool size, or how much does the pool size impact what you are doing?
Yeah, so when you're using the Sims, the pool size that you build out should be whatever is the closest to mimic the contest you're in. So if you're playing the, big large field tournaments, then you build out 5,000 lineups for DraftKings because that is the one that's closest to matching the actual contest size. If you're playing a single entry that only has 500 people in it, then yeah, the best way to mimic that contest is going to be to build 500 lineups in the contest generator.
Gotcha. So you're usually using that $5,000 one for most of the ones that you're playing. Correct?
By the way, very, very funny question from Steven Leibowitz in chat. He says, if you get the avatar as a tattoo, is there an extra credit? Steven Leibowitz, if you get a stochastic tattoo, I don't care what any of the higher ups of the company say. I am going to make sure that you get infinity credits.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. You have to get, so you know how people get teardrop tattoos? You do that, but with stochastic avatars under each eye. And also you sure shit better hope we don't rebrand again if we do that. Because if we rebrand, I'm just gonna say if we rebrand, I'm gonna pull the subscription.
I do remember someone getting way back in the day a Draft Street tattoo, but they had like a friend do it, and it was not a very good facsimile of it, and they did it just for $100 credit or something on Draft Street back in the day.
We've got a couple more questions that have come in, and then I also want to go to Rich and ask him what the impact of Zach Collins out is going to be for the San Antonio Spurs. But first, some questions that we have in Discord. One here is from Ant604, $. He says, do you think Doncic plays 45 minutes last night and used a ton of energy for that God tier game? I'm not sure. I'm really unsure. I don't have a real clean read on this. If you asked me, like just gun to my head, does Luka play or sit? I would lean more towards he sits than plays, but I'm not so confident that I don't want to reserve lineup spots for Luka right now. But if you're just playing one lineup and you ask me, hey, does he sit or play? I would tell you that you should have Luka in that lineup. No, either way, because you want to be able to get him into your lineup. If he does play, it's much easier to swap off of Luka than it's going to be to swap onto Luka. So I think that you should be reserving Luka in lineups for that reason. Then Rocky Raccoon is asking, is this Wemby day? I feel like this is Wemby day. Is this Wemby day? May Pop play him a juicy 30? So we did see close to 30 minutes out of Wemby. Here's the reality of Wemby. You don't need 30 minutes from him to even crush. Like if he gets 26 minutes, he's still very live to have a big game. And then also, we just found that Zach Collins is going to be out. So, Rich, what is the impact of Zach Collins not playing tonight for the San Antonio Spurs?
All right, so there's a couple things to touch on here. Dominic Barlow would be the biggest beneficiary and just basically taking all the Zach Collins minutes. He's still listed as questionable, and it's because he's on a G League two-way contract. So, was it last night? There was one of the recent days where we were projecting a guy to play, and we usually don't get that news if a team has recalled a guy from G League until pretty close to lock, unfortunately. They seem to keep it pretty hush-hush for whatever reason. I'm not sure. So with that being said, if you were to play Dominic Barlow, it's not the biggest deal. If then he wasn't, able to play, you could easily just swap to Sandro. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his full last name, but Mamu, because he's 500 cheaper on DraftKings and he's the same price as Barlow on FanDuel. So if you were to play Barlow, don't be afraid if he ends up not being able to play, because you can always just swap that to Sandro, who is a great fantasy point producer, per minute producer anyways. And then with Wemby, I have him at just under 29 minutes. Wemby's an absolute unicorn. I think we all know that, but he is going up against arguably one of the best teams to try and defend him with Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. And then you also have Naz Reid off the bench. So I think 29 minutes is potentially a little bit conservative. He could play 30, 31, but on this matchup, I'm not sure if they're going to be close enough. I think the game needs to be close late into the fourth for Pop to really want to stretch him out for 30 plus minutes is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yeah. And one thing that's going to be, a couple of things that are pretty important about this. First, the player you're referencing is Scottie Pippen Jr.
Yeah.
And I think that was last night. The slates all blend together. I think that was last night, though, where Scottie Pippen, actually, it's been the last two Grizzlies slates. One was with Scottie Pippen, where we didn't know if Scottie Pippen was going to be eligible to play just before the game started, and then he did end up being active. And then we had the last Grizzlies game. A lot of people wanted to play Scottie Pippen because he was good in the last game, and that was one where we didn't find out until like 10 minutes before the game that he was on the inactive list and wasn't available to play. So, yeah, to your point, we're going to have to stay tuned and stay glued to the inactives list for the San Antonio Spurs.
They just announced, actually, he's available. Barlow is available. So don't even need to worry about that now.
All right. Barlow is in. He will be playing. All right. Let's go. And, looks like EMac. Looks like a couple of super chats might have come in.
We do. We've got, let's see, Chris Williams did one. Was there one that came in before him? We did the must plays. Thoughts on skipping the first two games. That was
so Christian Valentine asked us, can we skip the first two games? I would highly advise you do not. At the very least, if you're only playing one lineup, put Ish Smith in it. He's starting at point guard for the Hornets in place of LaMelo Ball. And whenever you get a point guard who's starting at close to a min price, it's just the path to them having success relative to their salary. It's fairly likely to happen. So Ish Smith is somebody who I do think you should be playing. There's nobody else I would consider a must play type guy from the first couple of games. Ish Smith, though, he's one of my most rostered players on the slate. So you want to have him in.
All right. The other one is Chris Williams. We've got 11 minutes, so we can answer this one. So looking at the DK Showdown, how many fantasy points do you feel Luka needs the late game? Of course, Luka needs to be in the optimal. I know it's irrelevant last time out, but against the Kings, he was fresh. He had 56.
How many? That's such a difficult question to answer because it's going to sound like a cop-out response, but this is my answer. It depends how many points everybody else scores, right? If Luka goes out and he scores 70, but Sabonis scores 80, then the answer is 70 wasn't enough. So he has to be the highest scoring player in the game. And I think that's most likely outcome. So Chris, because I did anticipate you asking this question about tiers, not about tiers, about Showdown. One thing I feel bad about is because Chris leaves this question for us every day. I've been building lineups, but we've had crazy injury news in every single game that he's been asking this question about recently. So like the other day he had asked us and it was Anthony Simons and Malcolm Brogdon were both questionable, if I remember correctly. Now for tonight, Luka is questionable. So it does make it a little bit hard to know for sure, but I'll say that if Luka scores 60 plus, he's probably going to be in your winning lineup at captain for Showdown tonight. And then as far as other players to get to, I know that Chris didn't ask this directly, but since I have the lineups built out, I'll read this off to him. Captains I got to the most were Luka, followed by Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, and then next was actually Grant Williams, which surprised me a little bit. So if you're looking to be contrarian a captain, you could throw Grant Williams in and you could pay up for whoever you want in every other spot.
How much? Building out the Sims here, Greg. I all of a sudden have 60% Nas Reed. It looks like the field is around 26%. Should I tamp that down a little?
No, I'm good with that. The only way I would is if he was in the 7 p.m. games. Totally fine, because leave Nas Reed into lineups and you could late swap afterwards. If you're not comfortable with that exposure, then do a late swap like 40 minutes from now when we get more news. Because I'm holding a lot of lineups with Nas Reed, but I'm going to assume some players get ruled out by the time his game starts, and then it's going to swap off him some anyway. The problem is, by the way, also, if you do an ROI downgrade to him, EMac, it's going to get you more players from the first game on the slate, which you probably don't want.
Right. And that's where I was going, is like, hey, wait a second. I think he's the placeholder instead of moving some of that to Mason Plumlee. Why don't I just bide my time and see what happens with Dallas? So I'm getting the hang of this. Careful, folks. You in the couch day, you better watch out. EMac's coming for you, baby.
That was, I don't know. That was a little scary out of context. A couple more questions coming in.
My internet froze, damn it.
I can still see you. I don't think you froze.
No, it did, but you guys all froze, and I said something about.
You said EMac
let's
is
just say
coming for you, and I clipped it.
I just heard EMac is coming, and then your audio cut out. Was that not what you said? Did I miss something?
If you're someone who has a problem, please call our
Yeah, or if it lasts for more than 4 hours, there's a number for that also. All kinds of numbers.
I worked for that company. Did you know that? Most remembered sentence from a Super Bowl in history, best callback ever. Turned out from a doctor's warning into the best marketing that they could have ever asked for. Miss those days.
Look at that. EMac. I don't know if EMac would publicize. He was the first ever American with ED. Is that correct, EMac? The first ever? True pioneer.
Something like that. Yeah, once upon a time, at least they didn't fix it like they did old George Washington. That would have been a problem, but in any event, with his teeth, but let's not go there.
We've got a super chat.
All right, back
Chris
on track.
Albers.
6 minutes to go here. We do have the starting lineups for the first games. Okay.
Yeah, lineups we've had for a little bit here. But Chris Albers asked us who benefits from Middleton being out. Yeah, so a couple players that you should be considering. Giannis is a pay-up option for sure. And then Jay Crowder isn't a bad punt. I don't know that we could really confidently say Jay Crowder goes out and plays big minutes or anything like that, but he's nearly min price. And with that in mind, he's definitely a viable punt because he should be picking up some extra minutes with Chris Middleton out. So the player who benefits the most overall is Giannis, but Jay Crowder goes from somebody who'd be totally not in consideration if Middleton was in to at least viable as a punt. Discord, we've got I Love Money. I Love Money is asking us as a last piece, Anthony Edwards or James Harden. I prefer Anthony Edwards. And then we've got the Thal 0717. He says, am I crazy for not considering Ish a must play? All right. So must play is kind of an odd phrasing because it's not like I have 100% of Ish Smith. He's just one of my most rostered players, but there's no way that I would build a set of lineups that did not include Ish Smith in it today, right? There's no way that he would be a fade for me where I don't have him. And if you're playing cash games, you absolutely have to play Ish Smith in cash games. As far as tournaments go, you could always make a case to not roster somebody in a tournament lineup, but Ish Smith is one of my most rostered players tonight. Next question here.
Did you end up with any Damian Lillard? There's someone we haven't mentioned at all tonight.
I don't have a significant amount of him.
Okay. That was not for me. That was another question. I don't have any, so.
And the next question was Barlow or Olynyk for last minute on DK. Yeah, I prefer Kelly Olynyk to Dominic Barlow, even though I'm trying to temper my exposure to the first game on the slate. I'm not dying to go play Dominic Barlow, and I do think there's more upside in Kelly Olynyk. Now, I can't confidently tell you I know what Kelly Olynyk's minutes are going to be. The same thing where we were talking about Colin Sexton before, but Kelly Olynyk was a pretty damn good last game, ended up getting extended minutes and absolutely crushed from a DFS standpoint. There's a clear ceiling for Kelly Olynyk. We just don't know exactly what those minutes are going to look like, but I do prefer Kelly Olynyk to Dominic Barlow.
How much Bridges did you end up with? Is he someone you would consider going a little wider?
So as far as players I have over 20% exposure to from the 7 p.m. locking games, I landed on Ish Smith, Drew Holiday, and Bridges did end up getting just over that mark for me as well.
I'm going to upload my lineups, Greg.
Look at you. How's that going? Running into any issues there, EMac?
No, it's a navigation thing. So for those of you that are going to be joining in on the fun with the Sims, especially now that we're bundling them all together and giving you the potential to get a $150 credit, it's just memory, right? So using FanDuel for 8 years or whatever it's been, I can kind of do everything I want and multitask. With this, it's a little different because you have to navigate between some screens. It's very easy to use, but it's just making sure you're doing things in the right order, that you're unselecting your lineups when you're doing the ROI boosts to recapture those updates, etc. But yeah, it was pretty smooth. We'll see if the proof is in the proverbial pudding here, Greg. But my lineups are uploaded, so there we go. That's no scramble for me this time. Please, knocking on wood.
Nice. Got everything all set and ready to go. Let me double check Discord to make sure we didn't miss out on any questions. If you guys haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. But it does look like we are all caught up on questions here, EMac. So let's finish the show by going over something that Eric and I used to do fairly regularly back in the day. And we haven't gotten to do it as much as of late. Yeah, it was anal, Mike. Anal, that's what it was. Which player, looking at your exposures now, you're the first time using the Sims for a main slate, EMac. Who are you most afraid of on the slate? Who, either in terms of a player that you fear that could go off that you don't have a lot of, or somebody who you have a lot of that could end up ruining your lines? What makes you most nervous about your lineups tonight?
So the Miles Bridges coming in at 47%. That's a little aggressive. That was higher than where you were, but I'm okay with it. A lot of people, missing that game. He did play 36 minutes last night. 2 back-to-back, 3 and 4, all that. I'm still okay with him. The other one that's a little bit nerve-wracking is Kevin Huerter. So I have 40%. So that's almost double the field. But again, that's a later game one. So I'm feeling a little more confident in players like him, Grant Williams. I will be maneuvering things around. Potentially I could end up with more Jay Crowder or less Jay Crowder or Barlow or somebody else in those price ranges. So this is kind of fun.
EMac's internet.
I would say the biggest scary is Kevin Huerter.
I'm most afraid of your internet at this point. You are really glitching in and out of the matrix there, EMac, but it generally held on until the end of the show. For me, the player that I am most nervous about, it's probably anybody from the Jazz, just because I don't have a ton of exposure there. And I'm pretty terrified that there's just going to be one random guy that goes out and scores a gazillion points from the Utah Jazz that I'm not going to have. And then all the late swapping I want to do will kind of be for naught if there's all of a sudden some, like Colin Sexton goes out and scores 50 or something again. So that's what I'm afraid of, the stupid Utah Jazz rotations. And that's done it here. We made it to Locky, Mac.
We are officially it is locked. So this is good. I'm gonna have some dinner. I'm going to close some of these tabs that invariably got open. We're killing my internet.
Can I just mention one thing? This is good. The Sixers are only down 2 to the Nuggets without Embiid or Maxey. Carry on.
Okay.
Alrighty, Greg, would you like to sign us off here?
Yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you're not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Tomorrow, full day of NFL DFS talk. Josh is still going to be doing his NBA process show in the morning, and then throughout the day, we are going to have in the afternoon NFL Deeper Dive, NFL Live before lock for the AFC and the NFC Championship games, and then EMac and I are going to be coming on the air to lead us into the Showdown game. And EMac, people want you to wish them good luck before we leave now.
All right, thank you everybody. Check out the free article for the championship games on the homepage. Phrasing, Greg. Phrasing.
You didn't say good luck, gamers. That's all they want. There we go. Take us out, Mike. We're done. That's all people want to hear. You can't have a good slate unless EMac wishes you good luck. Have a good one, guys.